you got called to do, what was it, the Download Festival, like on a short notice basis to go fill in for Jeff Loomis. Can we talk about that real quick?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was Summer Breeze in Germany, 2018.
How many people were at that show, Joey?
I think like around 50,000.
Oh, only 50,000?
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of 2020. My name's Cory Peza, here as always with Siobhán Cronin and Benny Goodman. And today we're super pumped to welcome a longtime Lost Symphony contributor, Mr. Joey Concepcion. He's got a new record coming out, Divine Technical Machine, which is sick. He sent us the tracks last night. I listened through the first few. It's pretty cool, man. I'm looking forward to diving into it. But how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, Joey, I was saying right before the show, this is my first time meeting you, virtually, I suppose. So, but it's crazy because I feel like I know you at this point from all the playing. And I mean, let me just say, yeah, you are one of the most impressive guitar players I've ever seen, not just in your original stuff, but your ability to emulate, we've done so many covers through Lost Symphony too, your ability to emulate all these guitar heroes. So you're a monster, man.
Thank you. That means a lot.
I have to say something about Joey that I love Joey, but when you listen to him play, it's first off, there's nobody on the planet that has such a Ouija board for a hand. That's the way I describe Joey, because if he plays Randy Rhoads, it sounds like Randy Rhoads. When you play Van Halen, it sounds like Van Halen. It doesn't sound like a 7-year-old Japanese kid imitating Van Halen. You sound like Van Halen, and you sound like you're going to rip my head off. But then I go and talk to you, and you're like, hey, man, how are you? What's up with that? Why does it sound like you're so ferocious on the guitar, but then I meet you, and you're like, can I do your dishes?
I don't know. I guess it just takes a lot of energy, I guess, or focus to do. I feel like sometimes I'm becoming that person when I play their part sometimes,
I guess. I mean, it's kind of like being an actor. You have to immerse yourself psychologically. But yeah, I mean, if you could clone yourself, you'd probably be a millionaire. You could have 10 tribute bands and just not even have to leave the house.
Explain this, because there are very few guitar players. I mean, I love, I've heard Steve Stevens cover Randy Rhoads, but he sounds like Steve Stevens covering Randy Rhoads. You literally, when you pull your Yngwie out or you pull your Jeff Loomis out, you sound like you've gotten into the character, like Christian Bale losing 30 pounds to play a character. That's you on guitar. What's going through your head when you're doing that?
I don't know. It just kind of happens naturally.
All right, you got your guitar right there, and clearly you're the most loquacious person that's ever been on this show. Why don't you show, what's your favorite solo you're playing right now? Give us some shred. We don't really have a lot of shred on the show. Show us something, Joey.
Hot damn.
So just for the quick cliff notes, how did you get into guitar? What was your first experience with that?
Well, my dad plays bass, and he grew up playing guitar too. And my grandfather also played guitar, so it's in my family. And
how old were you when you first started?
11.
Okay. Were your family members teaching you? Were you self-taught? What was the combination of sort of learning experiences that got you to where you are?
A little bit of everything. I took lessons immediately at a local store around here, and it was just guitar from that point on. I slept with the guitar for the next decade.
That's amazing. This reminds me of our episode we did with Jimmy Bell. I don't know if you guys remember that. He was talking about having the guitar in bed with him, and he just wakes up at 4 a.m. Going as fast as he can. But it's a true passion. I
remember opening my eyes to the morning and guitar still in hand. Oh, I did just do scales. It was just obsession.
Speaking from someone like me, who's always wanted to play like someone like you, what can I do at 40 years old to be, I don't know, a millionth as good as Joey Concepcion?
I don't know. I think with technique, a lot of people don't practice warming up enough. And I know John Petrucci is like one of the best people for doing that. Like just constantly warming up before you like actually think about playing something.
So tell us about your warm. I mean, what is your warm up routine?
I just do a lot of chromatic scales, and like I have my own like techniques that I do, and I'll like
show us.
I'll like go up a string. So I'll do that, and it's just like a rolly kind of thing, but it's kind of, I call it a roller coaster because it goes down and it goes up. It's like, but like just getting like that fluidity in the hand all the time, it makes it easier to play like easier stuff, you know, that's not that hard, like a blues, like. So like I just feel like it overall like helps your like operation, you know, to have more fluidity.
Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's kind of like the strength training for, you know, whatever you need to do. It's similar on violin. When you think back to your early, like when you said you were taking lessons at the local music shop, I mean, looking back, how did you feel about those lessons? Did you get the right foundation? Like what sorts of things were you being taught as, you know, a new guitar player?
I think I did. Like it was right off the bat with Guns N' Roses solos and stuff, and
straight from nothing to just solos.
Yeah, like maybe not like solos, but like I remember like learning "Sweet Child of Mine" was like one of the first ones that I learned in Crazy Train. Just a lot of Metallica, like every Metallica, the first 5 albums. Like I just like learned all those riffs.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so I was probably like 15 years old when I realized that my vibrato was better than Kirk Hammett. When you play Metallica, do you have to dumb yourself down to try to sound like Kirk? Because I feel like your vibrato and your feel is so much better that I don't know if I could picture you playing Fade to Black and making it sound like actually Metallica.
I guess a little bit, but not that much. Like, I love what he plays. Like, it's really a memorable solo.
So is that so let's talk about that. So Kirk Hammett, I grew up, I love every single Metallica song and all of that. But like, you know, his playing is level 1 for shredders, but he's influenced so many players. Joey, can you speak to like what called you about Metallica and about Kirk Hammett?
I think it was like the darkness of like the and Justice for All. Like the riffs were just like cold sounding and like just really heavy.
So when you were listening to this, were you like teaching yourself all these songs?
Yeah,
you know,
I had like a tab book that I got from one of my guitar teachers, and it was like the history of all throughout the 80s of Metallica's riffs. So like I just like learned that. And I think one of the biggest things that I learned from was like all the first 3 Paul Gilbert like VHS tapes. I mean, I know a lot of people say that too.
So when I say like Purple Ibanez, you know exactly what I'm talking about with Paul Gilbert, right?
Yeah.
That Purple Ibanez.
Yeah.
So talk about that. So Paul Gilbert, so for those that don't know, guitars for Mr. Big, but also probably one of the greatest living guitarists, musicians of all time. But he in the 80s had made a shred video, like to teach people how to play, and it's become the definitive video. I mean, I know Cory and I still play that same scale. Cory knows the scale.
The 3-note per string major scale.
Yeah. What do you think about what do you think makes Paul Gilbert such a great teacher, and why is that video something that you wanted to learn note for note from start to finish?
He just like made it really silly and like I don't know, it's not like a very like serious video. So like he was like one of the first people to like do videos on a consistent basis with like teaching back then, you know?
Well, and this is before the YouTube time, correct? Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like that is pretty groundbreaking, because now, you know, you go on and it's like everybody has some tutorial on something, but.
It's true. And it's funny because that, like we mentioned, like every guitarist, you know, kind of our age and like people I know that are into like that style of music and they all reference that video. So it's something that doesn't happen anymore, where there's like one kind of foundational like example of playing that so many other people share, Whereas now you just type into, YouTube, like, oh, I want to learn how to sweep pick. And you're going to get 4,000 different players teaching you a method. So it's like, it's almost like there used to be only 3 channels on TV. So everyone watched the same shows, but now there's a million. So it's like, we kind of lost that, for better or worse, lost that singular point of education that you had with like those, shred masters back in like the 80s and 90s that put out, that stuff, and everyone used to stare at Eddie's hands. Everyone, there was that one point, and everyone would talk about that one technique. That's kind of gone away a little bit, I think.
Well, it sounds to me like some of your early lessons and things where, you said you started off with guitar solos. How did you, and it seems like you did a lot of self-study, but how did you fill in like getting the right technical training and knowing how to warm up and all of that? Because it seems like you've sort of amassed a lot of knowledge, but not always from teachers. I mean, how did you kind of piece everything together in a way that helped you build your technique to what it is now?
I think it was just like practice. Like I think I probably most definitely practiced like 10 hours a day at least, or somewhere between 5 and 10, like from the age of 13 till I was like 20, doing like all the modes and all the scales. And I just always like wrote my own music too. I had like a tape recorder back then, like a Fostex, like 4-track. And like I had a Alesis drum machine, and I would just make beats and like just make my own riffs early on. So I was like always recording even early on, and just trying to like, make sure I was in key and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that's an invaluable tool then, and that's something that I know that's kind of how I came up. I was like, I had the first crappy like N-track recorder or something for my computer, just really terrible piece of software. But being able to hear yourself back, and then especially if you have multiple tracks, you can start overdubbing. That's, I think, one of the best ways to get that like instant feedback when you're learning, because you can listen back and go, oh, that sounds like shit, I'm doing something wrong. Whereas if you're just kind of practicing and you're practicing the wrong thing, you might not know it, and you might be like kind of working at something that's not the correct technique or something. So having the ability to record yourself and listen back is like one of the greatest tools, I think, when you're learning guitar or trying to excel in a certain area. Did you feel like your ear for harmony and songwriting developed alongside of that recording with the 4-track there?
I think so, yeah. I just like always like wanted to like put down my ideas, and it helped me like expand like on that, I guess like harmonically, or I would just like hear like other melodies on top of like a certain melody or riff,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so on top of songwriting, I mean, it seems like there was no other alternative than just doing music for your living and for your life. I mean, and I think it's great, and it helps that you had, your family was in that as well. I mean, was there, in terms of your support system, did you get any input from, your parents or grandparents, anyone that was involved, they were musicians? Did they, want to foster you being a musician for a living? I mean, did you ever at any point think about doing anything else? Just out of curiosity.
No, I never, like, this is the only thing I know how to do. Like, I don't know. I've tried, I've had a lot of different jobs and stuff, but my family, like, has always been supportive. Like, it goes, it's hard sometimes, but I've always gotten great support. And, like, it seems like things are just getting better and better. So I just got to keep believing, that, eventually it will work out, because this is what I love to do. And I just am compelled to keep going.
So speaking of like things getting better and better, can you talk a little bit about what you've been up to, now like professionally over the past few years, just to give some people some backstory there?
Well, I live in Connecticut, and I've always mostly been like a solo guitar player, and like I have a lot of friends out here in the music industry too. I was in a band called Armageddon from like 2013 till 2017 with Christopher Amott from Arch Enemy, and that was like
no big deal.
That was like where I first got like my touring experience. And a band called Dead by Wednesday I was in out here with Opus, and just I've always just like jumped around in bands, but like I always wanted to do like this solo thing for real, because like I know like that I can like control everything that's created around it in a way, because like I'm not like the best band leader, but like I have like something to say, like in my music, I guess. I've done some gigs with Arch Enemy in the past, filling in Dark Tranquility, Sanctuary.
So talk about how that came about with Arch Enemy, especially. Obviously we're familiar. I'm sure a lot of.
I was going to say, yeah. So let's just back it up for a moment. So we have Jeff Loomis play on Lost Symphony. And the reason we got Jeff on Lost Symphony is because Joey was in Belgium sitting at a table with Jeff Loomis going, hey, there's this awesome project, Lost Symphony, and my buddy Benny. It'd be cool. And Jeff, who's literally pound for pound one of the greatest guitar players that's ever walked the face of the planet, was like, sure. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And Joey's so amazing. So for Jeff to take Joey seriously enough to give me a call back, it's pretty freaking amazing. But then when Jeff had, family stuff going on, you got called to do, what was it, the Download Festival, like on a short notice basis to go fill in for Jeff Loomis. Can we talk about that real quick?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was Summer Breeze in Germany, 2018.
How many people were at that show, Joey?
I think like around 50,000.
Oh, only 50,000?
Just a casual 50,000.
So, but hold on. How much time did you have? So for those that don't know Arch Enemy and Jeff Loomis, if you were to equate his guitar playing to, I don't know, science, it'd be like figuring out the theory of relativity to try to learn his parts.
Quantum mechanics.
It's quantum mechanics. That's what I was looking for. It's literally impossible. In fact, if you said to me, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million in 1,000,000 years to learn Jeff Loomis's parts for one show, I would just say, forget it. I don't have 1,000,000 years or $1 million, and I can't do this. How many days did it take you to learn Jeff Loomis's entire repertoire for that show?
I was like really rehearsed, because like they're just like one of my favorite bands. So like I like grew up with Arch Enemy and like just learning all their songs. So like I knew a lot of their like hit songs and stuff. And then
but how much notice did you actually have before you had to go in front of 50,000 people with Arch Enemy?
I think like 3 months or something.
3 months.
Yeah.
Again, for reference, if you gave me, Cory, and not Siobhán, we're not going to include her in this, Cory and I 30 years. Cory, could you do that? Maybe 30 years. Do you think we could do this in 30 years?
If I can go back in time 30 years ago and start practicing.
Yeah.
My brain was more malleable and able to pick up new things at that point.
Yeah, so basically we go back to 10 when Joey was 10 and we started practicing with him every day. Maybe we could have done it too.
Well, it's just like anything. I mean, things are easier to pick up when you have that foundation of the technique, right? And it especially helps if you were drawn to that music already and that was part of what you were incorporating into your early years of just playing and learning solos and internalizing the music. So yeah. I mean, it would just be like anyone being called to be a soloist. If you're being pulled out of the mentality of being a soloist and you're used to doing something completely different, yeah, of course it would take a long time. But I can see that you probably picked it up pretty quickly. I mean, what was your rehearsal time like with the band? Obviously you had your own preparation time, but how much time were you spending with them rehearsing in preparation for this show?
We actually didn't rehearse. We only did like maybe 4 songs. Like we jammed once and like that was really it. Like a month before that too. So like I just like, it was just like I watched all their live videos and just like tried to copy them. Like when I got on stage, and I'm just like, is this a simulation?
Wow. And go ahead, Ben.
Well, I was going to say, I saw it and I watched it like a proud Jewish mother. Because I was like, because I didn't know. I'm like, okay, he's really, really good. But Jeff Loomis is like the bar for which things are set. And I watched you, and you did not miss a note the entire set. Did the band like walk off afterwards and say anything? Like, what did they say to you? Because they must know that that's like, hey, we just asked you to swim like Michael Phelps and you did it. You just won us 18 gold medals. Did like Alicia come up to you after the show, the lead singer of Arch Enemy, and say anything, or did they just high five you and walk away and wait for Jeff to come back?
No, they were all really kind, and like they were really like grateful and thankful, and we all like power fisted and stuff, backstage, like we did it, They were just really thankful, and I was really thankful, and it just fit.
That's awesome. I mean, coming from understanding what it's like to play festivals or, rock shows, I mean, it's one thing to know the music, but there are a lot of things. I don't know if you guys were on monitors or in-ears, but, there are a lot of things that I'm assuming they're probably not on a click track. I don't know. But yeah. I mean, there's a lot that can kind of throw you off compared to how you're used to rehearsing stuff in your own world and your own, comfort zone. Was there anything that felt uncomfortable or different or made it difficult for you to play that show? I mean, obviously you did great, so it worked, but how did it feel to be in that environment? Was there anything that was different?
I was a little nervous for the dumbest things though, and it's just like I hope I bend that one note right. Yeah, just I don't know. I tried to relax. Like I tried to just like, I guess meditate before the show, and just I'll just like sometimes like, look at the crowd from far away, and I'll just feel like, okay, like just be silly, like don't take it seriously.
That's important. I mean, it's you make it sound very easy. I know it's some people get really terrible stage fright. So for you to be in such a high pressure position and have that outlook is pretty amazing to me.
Yeah. I mean, I was nervous even with Jeff watching, like, and
What did Jeff think? Because I mean, listen, you've been kind enough to introduce me to Jeff, and he's a fucking fantastic human being, super nice. What a great player, super humble human being. He's a lot like you in the sense, like, oh, was that good enough? And you're like, are you a psych? Are you hearing what? He's crazy in that he's just, again, one of those guys that you can tell he practices 1 million hours a day and still nothing's ever good enough. What did he think when he saw you play? Was he like a proud Jewish mother? Like, what was up with that? What was the phone call from Jeff after that show?
He just said that I killed it, and he was just super nice, and that like he just like appreciated that, that I did this, and like he also helped me out on a guitar solo for my new album. So like right out the bang, actually, like after the intro, the album starts, and Jeff Loomis is my first guest on my new album too. So like that's pretty cool. And yeah, he's just been a great like mentor and friend, and like just from afar, like I just like appreciate his humility and like attitude and everything he does on the instrument,
I'll tell you this, for months and months and months, I've been listening to Giant Spider Attack on the City. Okay. Now we're talking about how Joey has a hand like a Ouija board, and he sounds like Randy, he sounds like Jeff Loomis, but you go and listen to Giant Spider Attack on the City, and you will know the voice of Joey Concepcion, because that's the other thing. So he's not just an imitator. Okay. And Joey's played on all 3 Lost Symphony records. And in fact, one of the reasons that we keep calling Joey back, it's not because he just talks our ear off, as you can tell. It's because every single time he sends a solo into us, it's one of those things where Cory and I, it doesn't matter if he's against Rusty Cooley, doesn't matter if it's Jimmy Bell or Kelly or Marty Friedman. Whenever Joey comes in, it's just like a breath of fresh air, like, holy shit. Like, you just seem to pick the right notes. If you could describe your style as far as your voice, how do you approach the guitar as far as you? Because I know you've filled in for Dark Tranquility, you filled in for Sanctuary, you filled in for Arch Enemy, you've been a hired gun because you can play anything. But this is your record. How would you describe your record?
I really wanted to take every influence that I have and like kind of package it into this like big like tribute in a way to like, like Steve Vai and Yngwie and Paul Gilbert. But then like I wanted to have like riffs like Kill Switch Engage or, Arch Enemy or, even like death metal bands like Decapitated, just like it's just like a mixture of all these crazy styles, and even trying to fit a little like fusion elements in there and some classical. And it's kind of like a story or a concept. Like when you listen to it, like the basis is that like I wanted to make an album that like, I want to be a part of that like genty, like really modern metal thing. But then I also like, I don't know where to fit in, because like I don't want to be like a robotic guitar player. I want to have like a unique style and just like sound like myself. And I mean, I like all those older guitar players like Yngwie and Vi, and they're like so emotive and expressive. And I wanted to like make something like super expressive and melodic, but like just really bombastically heavy and technical as well. And like also try to fit like hooks in there. And I have 2 songs on the album with vocals. So me and a friend of mine were singing on it. So it's the first time
You're singing, Joey?
Yeah. Well,
awesome, dude.
It's like death metal growls. So
nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds super eclectic, and I'm just curious, when you conceptualize the album, how does the writing process work for you? Does it start with a riff, a hook, a melody, a solo? What's kind of the general order of events when you're writing a tune or coming up with the idea for an album?
I think it's funny because like I'm gonna like laugh with Benny about this, but it's like kind of like Bob Ross in a way. I just like I kind of see it before it happens, but I'm just like, how am I gonna make this happen? And I just like, I don't know, I'm like feeling a certain way, like it's a mood. So like I want to take the mood and like put the mood, on a screen. But then like the mood has to change, and it just like becomes like this sound, like emotive thing.
That's interesting. I think it was Bumblefoot that we had on the show that said something really similar, that it visualizes kind of the end product or the whole thing and then has to deconstruct sort of backwards. And
sometimes it's like spontaneous too, and it's just like I just like build it like a scientist or something.
Well, I want to talk about one of the first times. Well, actually, the first time that I met you so we were recording Lost Symphony, and you came down, and it was Ollie Herbert, rest in peace, Ollie, rest in power, and Matt LaPierre, and little Joey, and he's not really that little, he's like over 6 feet tall. Joey comes in, and and if you couldn't tell from his demeanor now, he's humble, he's like nervous. Ollie's one of his heroes, and Ollie's sitting there, and I literally have video of Joey with his back playing to us, and he didn't like want to play. He's like, I don't know if I got it. And like Ollie and Matt are literally, who are 2 of the greatest guitarists that have ever lived, are sitting there like, what? And Joey's like, I don't know if I got it. And they're like, what? And finally he turns around and just starts playing for everybody. But the thing that's hilarious is that Joey, and I'm going to say this, Joey, and I love you to pieces. He doesn't articulate through his words what he does through his hands. So he'll be like, oh, I don't know if I got that. Then he sits down and plays, and it's the most ridiculous, bombastic, crazy solo outside of the box, some weird thing. Was that good, guys? And it's really interesting when you meet someone like Joey, who's so supremely talented, and you could tell that all these notes are going on in his head, but it's almost like the notes are preventing you from speaking. You're like, I need to get the notes out. I can't talk to you. Do you feel like that's a thing?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. It sucks sometimes, but I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, there's some things like I hear that I just like, I don't even.
Yeah. There's some things that you haven't been able to get out of your head and onto the track.
Yeah, but like, hopefully, I just want to keep making more albums, making more crazy stuff.
Yeah, this new record's out. Is it March 17th?
Mm-hmm.
So that is probably past by the time this is out. So make sure everyone goes and checks out Divine Technical Machine. What's your favorite track that you want people to check out first if they're gonna give it a taste?
I actually have a song called Blistered, and that one's just like, it's a good size song. It's like 3-4 minutes. So it's like just like a ripping, burning track, you know, and then it gets like groovier towards the end. But sometimes I'm just like, I don't even know if anybody's gonna like this, but I can't think about that. I don't care, but it's like something I really have to do, and it's like, if someone likes it, hopefully, but if not, I feel like I made something I'm proud of, you know?
Yeah, you gotta write it for yourself first.
Yeah.
But you just brought up a good point. Crippling self-doubt is a huge factor in amazing players. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to Siobhán off the ledge, and she's like, I don't know if anything I'm doing is good. I don't know what's going on with my life. And then meanwhile, she's the greatest. I mean, literally, you could have her play against Marty Friedman. She learns Marty Friedman solos. We did a song, which we haven't released yet, but we did a cover of Over the Mountain with Randy Rhoads. And you play it, you triple track it, and Siobhán actually doubles the solo. And it's so fucking tight that every time I play for anybody, nobody realizes it's anything other than guitar. And like,
Right.
Meanwhile, if I had ever recorded anything even remotely as good as any of you guys, I'd be walking around and my head wouldn't even be able to fit through the door. So I feel like that maybe, let's turn this back about me. Maybe this is about me in the sense that if I had just been more humble and had more self-doubt, that I could have been better. Is that accurate? Like, maybe if I just questioned everything that I do, that I could be better at life, because I feel like every time I talk to you guys, it's, I don't know if this is going to be good enough. And then I go and hear it, which, by the way, I want to talk about this record. Didn't you record this record yourself, Joey?
Mm-hmm.
For those that don't know, go listen to Divine Technical Machine. The production quality of this record is fucking bananas, as my favorite Gwen Stefani No Doubt member says. Bananas. It's so good. How did you record this thing, dude?
Well, I use Cubase. I mixed it all by myself, and I've been recording since like 2008, like on Cubase, and like just learning how it works and stuff. And the last album, I didn't mix, but I love that mix too, and that producer was involved. But this time, like, I felt like my music was like too out of control, that like I didn't know how to tame it. Like I wouldn't like, I mean, I just felt like there was like more that I could do, you know? And like, I didn't know if anybody could like handle it on their own. Like I just like, it was like OCD about like every like nook and cranny, like I don't know.
That makes sense. I mean, and this goes back to something you said earlier about, you know, being a band leader, playing in other bands, and your draw to being a soloist is that's part of what makes you who you are, is that like excessive attention to detail. And you almost are chosen for that sort of path because, you know, if I can understand that, you know, sometimes you feel like your idea is the only way to bring them to life is to be completely in control of it. You know, the second you relinquish some of that to someone else, there's room for change or for your vision going astray. So
yeah, I'm pretty open-minded to other ideas too. And like the drummer on the album, Jeremy Kling, he did an amazing job. He's in the band called The Absence, and that's another band that I used to play with. And
it's amazing.
I had a guy from Finland do some guest vocals called Christian Palin from Adagio. I have Mark Rizzo on a track, and Chris Amott from Arch Enemy. So
Mark, you just mentioned, so we have Jeff Loomis, who's a Jedi guitarist. Mark Rizzo, for those that don't know, also stupidly good guitarist, like absolutely fucking. Every time I see this guy play, I'm like, I might as well just give up. And then you have Chris Ammett. I mean, what the fuck, Joey? Do you play on this record too?
Yeah. I mean, there was going to be a lot more players on it too, but like with the pandemic, it like really sucked. So this album's actually been like 5 years in the making. So
we know that game.
It feels like so liberating to just move to the next piece of music.
That's very exciting. Wow.
Yeah. it was hurting for a while to carry the weight of it, like not doing anything. But like, I want to do this, like, you know, and I want to like give people the music.
I can definitely recommend people check it out. Divine Technical Machine. It should be out now. For me, listening through the tracks, it's got like the perfect blend of the film score progressions, where it's not like doesn't sound like a metal, you know, like kind of the standard metal progressions. It's got like a little bit of modulation and movement that you don't often hear, but it flows really well because you're very vocal with your guitar lines. So it's really interesting choices in the progressions and the shifts to the moods, like you talked about. I almost got a little bit of like the Devin Townsend feel in some sections.
Yeah, that's a huge influence with the production and everything.
So I definitely can't recommend it enough. And before we wrap up, we do have to talk a little bit about our sponsor, Lost Symphony. I'm actually curious to know, because you have been a huge part of every record. You know, you have amazing solos. Can you talk about your favorite track that you've worked on for Lost Symphony? Do you have one?
I don't know. I honestly, like, I think I could like point out two awesome experiences I think that I loved. I mean, obviously, like I really like treasure the track with Ali, you know, and like being in Benny's studio, and like I love the solo that I did there personally. But then like another amazing thing,
I believe that was Negation Delirium, by the way.
Yeah, I actually I just really liked what I did after a while, you know. But like I was like in the moment, I was like, oh my god, Holly's right there. Like I'm just gonna play some like bullshit stuff, so like hopefully they'll like it. Like, but
actually, well, to just go back to that. So I have the video, and he's doing takes or whatever, and he gets the exact take. Like that's on the record, like none of it's edited. It's always just Joey just pulling it out of his asshole. And you could see like literally Ollie and Matt both go like at the same time. And he's like, was that it? And they're like, what the fuck's wrong with you, Joey? How much better do you want to get? Like Ollie's literally sitting there, and he wasn't very animated, but he's like, is that not good enough for you? Like what better are you going to do than that? What note could you possibly, could you do that's you didn't do?
So did you say you had another experience?
Yeah, I was gonna say when I did Bargaining Depression, and I got to be on a track with Marty, like that, just like hearing Marty, you know, over your music, and like, and then also I just like appear like a Pokemon, like in between, like, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Just like that's Marty Friedman. So it's like a cool, yeah.
I like that, the Lost Symphony Pokemon. That is kind of the best description of your various appearances in all of our 3 albums, chapters 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, and we're gonna stick links in the description to all those songs, and maybe we'll even put a clip or two in here. If we put too much, we'll demonetize ourselves, so we'll be careful with that.
Yeah.
The fun fact about 2020 and Lost Symphony: the same people, but we hijack our own copyright strikes.
Yeah,
but I do want to say, for those that haven't heard chapters 1, 2, and 3 from Lost Symphony, first off, we're very proud of them. But the thing that we kind of started off with is we had Kelly Caroluck, Matt LaPierre, a guy like Joey Concepcion, and Jimmy Bellick, these guys that not everyone necessarily had heard of, and we had them play against guys like Marty Friedman and Jeff Loomis and Nuno Betancourt and Alex Skolnick, all these guys. And one thing I have to absolutely say is that Joey, like, no matter who he's playing against, we always were so excited when you would come play on a song. And in fact, every single time we're like, who should we get to do another solo? It was always just, let's call Joey. And I remember Siobhán, she hadn't met you or whatever, and she was just learning about all these shred guitar players. But I remember getting a call from her one time saying, oh, well, that Joey guy, he's just so musical and melodic. I really like him. Like you and Richard Shaw from Cradle of Filth and all. I feel like you guys both have a lot in common in the sense that you're younger guys, but you're carrying the torch of the Dimebags and the Marty Friedmans and all of that into this modern gent universe of YouTube, almost cold playing that you're saying. And I really love the fact that, you know, you're younger dudes, but you're still keeping the old school alive where you know, a guy like Richard, you could see him play a minute and a half of premeditated destruction all the way through, and he's really doing it. And everything that you do on our records, like, I can vouch sitting there, Joey really does it. There's no punching in, there's no nothing. It's just, oh, there it is. There's the take. And that's amazing to me.
Yeah. So thank you for contributing to Lost Symphony and being a part of it. Where can people find, you know, your socials, your website? Where can people find out more about you?
So my official website is joeyconcepcion.net. And then you could also just type in Joey Concepcion on Facebook or Instagram. It's Joey Concepcion Guitar. And I don't know if I have a TikTok up yet, but I think there's one up there. If you just look up my name, it should be there.
Yeah, we'll stick links in the description there. And
awesome.
Yeah, Divine Technical Machine, which is out now because it's after March 17th, I assume.
Thank you guys so much.
No, thank you, Joey.
We want to say thank you, and I hope that you'll continue to collaborate with us. And I always love having you come down to the studio because we always get so much done, and it's just such a pleasure hanging out with you. And I encourage every single person who's listening to this to go listen to Divine Technical Machine, because as much as Joey's clearly an orator from birth, what you do with your hands with the guitar is like nothing I've ever heard. And again, you know, with Lost Symphony, it's really exciting for me to hear all of my heroes and then to realize that guys like Joey and Richard and Kelly and Matt and Jimmy are my new heroes, because you guys, you give me hope for the future, Joey.
You give me hope, bro.
Aw, what a beautiful moment. Oh,
all right,
so
guys,
cute.
check out
And on that note, you've been 2020. Yeah.
2020-d.com, and we will see you next week.
We don't talk in 4/4. So why is it weird when music isn't in 4/4? I find that really odd. When people like, I just play, I write something, and then they kind of have to, especially in this day and age, I've got to shoehorn it into the click track. Well, that doesn't, that's not in 4. I'll have to change my riff or whatever. It's like, no, the riff was great how it was. Like, why does it have to be in 4? We don't think in 4. We don't talk in 4. So what's the problem? We're changing it. Well.